I was at y'all about Rico from Street Scores, and we finally did it. I thought at the very latest we would get this announcement after this preseason game that's coming up against the Ravens. We had the 2 joint practices with them. Then we also play against them in the preseason Monday night. I thought at the very latest that could happen then. And then a lot of people were saying at the earliest it may happen before practice today. And that's exactly when it happened. The Washington Commanders have officially named quarterback Sam Howell the starter for the 2023 Washington Commanders season. I'm super excited, man. The ceiling is so high for this guy. I think he's going to do great things for us, but we got to dive into everything. First of all, I have the announcement clip of Ron Rivera at practice, before practice, saying it. I have Sam Howell speaking on it. I want to dive into a lot of the things that Sam Howell said in this press conference and why I'm even more optimistic than I already was before the press conference that he had today after practice. Also, I want to break down whether this was the right decision or not. I'm going to take a look at a lot of stats, a lot of advanced stats, compare him to a lot of quarterbacks in similar situations as him, all of that type of stuff. Shouts out to Ben Standig from The Athletic for a lot of the stats that we're going to use today. Also, shouts out my boys at the Tay and Todd podcast. Make sure y'all follow them, subscribe to all of their accounts as well. They're going to provide some stats for this video too. And yeah, man, before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I'm keeping y'all constantly updated with everything going on with the Commanders. Daily training camp clips and practice uploads. Daily training camp practice breakdowns, position group by position group. I'm still working on those rookie film sessions. I'm working on a lot of Rico reports for when we go into this dead period once the Commanders shut down pretty much all access to practices, really after August 19th, basically. Also, I will be live streaming this upcoming preseason game against the Ravens. I'm working on a game preview for the things y'all need to watch for the most on that game. And also, I'm going to do a video version of a game review for that as well after the game and all of the things that I noticed, stock up, stock downs, all of that type of stuff. So make sure y'all stay tuned for all of the content because it's like y'all seeing it 3, 4, 5 videos a day. Without further ado, let's get it.
You tell your family you can be a commander.
Alright, so Ron Rivera officially came out and announced that Sam Howell was a starting quarterback before practice today, and a lot of people felt like it should have happened like sooner, like the end of the joint practices against the Ravens 2 days ago and things like that. I already talked about that and why it was weird that he didn't, but also why it doesn't matter that he didn't sooner in my previous training camp breakdown video. But most importantly, the only thing that matters right now is that it's already been announced. Here's the clip from Ron Rivera talking about it.
We talked about, and that was seeing the growth and improvement from OTAs and minicamp. And then talked about going into training camp and continue to grow and show us what he's capable of. And we've been very pleased with it, to the point where I decided yesterday that we were going to name him the starter going into the regular season.
And one thing that I want to note, and John Com also brought up this great point as well, is that Jacoby Brissett had a really good summer. So if anything, you should be even more optimistic about Sam Howell, because it's not like Sam Howell won this job by default. Like, he went out there and earned it. Like, Jacoby Brissett looked good and looked like he should start for a NFL team somewhere, just not ours because we have Sam Howell. So at the very least, we have Jacoby Brissett as a really good backup, arguably the best backup quarterback in the NFL. Because again, he's at the very least a bottom tier starter somewhere. So he had a good summer, but Sam Howell just outplayed him. So I feel like that's a very important thing to note, that Sam Howell earned this job. It's not like they just gave him the job just by default because he's the hopeful guy. He's the younger guy that we drafted. But you got to remember, he's a 5th round pick. We're going to get into that when we get to the advanced stats and stuff like that. Or another reason could be that maybe both were just bad and Sam Howell just happened to be less bad. No, both were really good. And if anything, Sam Howell was just even that much better. So that makes me very optimistic about the future of this guy. I mean, Sam Howell has had a great camp, man. A really good camp. He's way further ahead than I expected at this point. If you would have asked me back in November or even December after that Cowboys game, that last game of the season or whatever date that exactly was, if you would have asked me where would Sam Howell be August 18th, I would have never guessed he would be as good and as prepared and as looking as much like a professional quarterback, potential franchise quarterback as he looks right now, as far as mechanics, going through progressions, consistent footwork mechanics, things like that, getting the ball out quickly, making the right decisions, getting outside of the pocket and using his legs to find a target deep down the field, his ability to throw on the run accurately, to be able to reset his feet even after he runs to deliver a pass real quick, the chemistry he has with the guys, the command of the offense, how well he knows the playbook already. Remember, this is his third offensive coordinator in 3 years. Whoever his offensive coordinator was at North Carolina, then it was Scott Turner, and then Eric Bieniemy. 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years, and the fact that he already knows the playbook this well is phenomenal, because Eric Bieniemy's playbook is not like the easiest one to learn. There's going to be a lot of complicated things. Now, granted, we still haven't thrown in a lot of the really complicated trick plays, like game planning level plays. That's, again, we're going to start installing all of that type of stuff and working on that and getting the offense to learn all of that as of like after August 19th, once they shut down access to training camp practices. They don't want the opponents. I mean, it would be nice if fans could know, but there's no way that all fans would just sign NDAs to get the footage from practice and not leak it anywhere, not post it on Twitter, not send it to anybody, let alone let an opponent get a hold of it and then use it against us in games. So that's why they're shutting everything down. I don't even think Commanders reporters will be allowed to be there, and if they are, they will not be allowed to record anything. The only thing we're going to be getting after a certain point, really after tomorrow, is really just injury updates. That's it. I believe that's how it's typically gone. Who knows if things change going into this offseason, but really after tomorrow, all of these training camp updates where I've been able to do full breakdowns, position group about everything going on, and me uploading clips of what's happening in practice, I believe that's going to die down after tomorrow. So Sam Howell has a great grasp of the offense, but yet at the same time, we haven't thrown everything at him just yet. But again, my main point is, I'm not saying that he's a finished product. I'm not saying that he's already a top 5, top 10 quarterback out there. He has the potential to be, but most importantly, my main point is that if you would ask me months ago, where would Sam Howell be August 18th as far as traits and all of the things you got to earn mentally from through hard work, through study and film sessions and stuff like that, all of the mechanical nuance stuff. We already know his natural God-given talent, but what about all of the stuff that makes a quarterback not only great but consistent? He's way further ahead than I expected at this point. Way further ahead. I mean, even again, like I said, just knowing the playbook alone, we haven't thrown everything at him yet, but how far he already knows the playbook, how well he already knows it, how far ahead he already is in the offense is phenomenal compared to what I expected. And I had high hopes for him after that Cowboys game, but I didn't think by August 18th he would already be where he's at right now. I didn't believe that at all. You couldn't have convinced me last year, even after that Cowboys game, that he would be this far ahead. And let's go ahead and dive into some really interesting statistics. Shouts out to my boy Ben Standig from The Athletic for a lot of the statistics I'm going to give y'all in these upcoming few minutes. First of all, from 2010 to 2021, teams drafted 74 day 3 quarterbacks. 6 have started more than 11 games. 3 have been a steady quarterback 1 at the very least. None named week 1 starters in year 2 with only 1 career start. That's Sam Howell specifically and only from 2010 to 2021. Remember, Sam Howell was drafted in the 5th round after a trade back to, you got to remember that trade back that we pulled, man. I'm not the biggest trade back guy, but to end up trading back with the Saints and we threw like another trade included due to that trade back, the trade back was a catalyst for it. Instead of getting Chris Olave, we got Jahan Dotson, Sam Howell, Cole Turner, and Brian Robinson. That was a phenomenal trade back. We'll probably go down in burgundy and gold history because that just changed our franchise. Sam Howell turns out to be a franchise quarterback even without Brian Robinson, Jahan Dotson, and Cole Turner included in that. That's phenomenal. So, hey, man, but remember he was drafted in the 5th round, 144th player taken, 6th quarterback in that 2022 NFL draft. But remember, he was supposed to be a first-round pick. If he would have went out in the 2021 draft, he could have been a first-round pick, but he wasn't eligible. Finally went out 2022 after he had a down season throwing-wise, even though running-wise, he had arguably one of the best seasons in college football the year he was coming out, probably the past couple of years. But at the same time, a lot of his weapons left, most notably De'Ami Brown, our 4th best receiver right now on our depth chart, who's a guy that he loves to throw the ball to so far in the offseason, and it just wasn't as great of a season passing wise. But I mean, granted, his offensive line wasn't good. He didn't have a lot of great weapons, so I'm not surprised. But to go from first round to fifth round, to go from first quarterback supposed to be selected to sixth in what a lot of people consider a very weak draft, I feel like that's really dramatic, and people definitely overreacted to the season that he had. People forgot that this guy was still a first round talent, a guy that people felt like could have gone first overall. For some reason, that just went out the window after, I don't even think he had a bad season in the 2021 season before he was drafted in 2022. I don't think that season was anywhere near worth going all the way in the fifth round, being the 144th player taken. Can't wait for Sam Howell to prove 143 people wrong. Well, really 31 teams wrong. Ben Standig also brings up a great point that no more planning around a veteran or having an expensive signal caller on roster. Instead, the staff fixated on Howell, 22 years old, in his rookie deal, which extends through the 2025 season with a salary cap hit between $960,000 and $1.19 million. That's it. Those are his cap hits at worst. That is ridiculous. Now, granted, if he balls out the way I think he will, before we even get to that final 2025 season, we'll probably go ahead and give him a big time extension. We'll see how that goes, though. And I mean, thank goodness, because building a team around a rookie quarterback is literally how you have your best chance at winning a Super Bowl. It's why you can pay Deron Payne a 4-year, $90 million contract, and Terry McLaurin a big-time contract the year before that, Jonathan Allen a big-time contract the year before that. That's why you're able to go and get like a Jacoby Brissett that you're paying like, what, $10 million just for 1 year? If Sam Howell isn't your starting quarterback on this extremely cheap rookie deal, which again, since he was drafted in the fifth round, is even cheaper than if he were a rookie drafted in the first round. And even first round rookie deals are really cheap compared to what starting veteran NFL quarterbacks get around here. I mean, like base $20 million a year. Sam Howell is out here making less than $1 million, and that is why that extra $19 million, you can spend that on other players. That's why you're able to potentially sign a Cameron Curl long term if you really want to. Maybe Curtis Samuel. We'll see about Kendall Fuller. We'll see about Antonio Gibson, Chase Young, Montez Sweat, a lot of these guys. The reason we're even having this conversation right now is because Sam Howell is on a rookie deal and he looks like he can be a franchise quarterback for us. If Sam Howell was eating up a lot of the cap space like Carson Wentz was, or even before that like Kirk Cousins, most notably, like especially like he wanted to, we wouldn't even be having debates about whether we can pay Montez Sweat or Chase Young. It would just basically be neither right now. You see what the Chiefs did with Pat Mahomes under his rookie deal. You see what the Eagles just did last year with Jalen Hurts on his rookie deal. And you notice how after the season ended and we went into the offseason, the Eagles still found a way to keep a lot of their talent and bring in more talent, but they lost a lot of their talent that wanted bigger paydays elsewhere. They could normally afford those guys when Jalen Hurts was still on his rookie deal. Once he signed that huge contract, they couldn't afford to keep a lot of those guys. A lot of the big pieces as to why they were even able to make it to the Super Bowl last year have gone to other teams because of Jalen Hurts making way more money per year and not being on that rookie deal anymore. So we have a certain window, basically, is the best way to put it. We have a certain window right now to figure out how we're going to go ahead and get to the Super Bowl before Sam Howell gets all of that money. But man, it's a nice 2-3 year window to have. Now, granted, you could just have a Pat Mahomes where it doesn't matter how much money he's making, how much cap space he's eating up, you can still go and win a Super Bowl because he's just that ridiculous. Or you could have a Tom Brady that's an elite quarterback that's willing to take a pay cut. Those are very rare scenarios. I prefer the safer route, which is the route it looks like we may potentially be headed for, with a really good young quarterback still in his rookie contract, which allows you to allocate resources elsewhere throughout the team and pay top-notch talent at other position groups to form around the quarterback and present him the best team around him so that he can lead this team to Super Bowls. I'm really hoping we can do that. Ben Standig also brings up a lot of other interesting statistics, including from 2010 to 2021, teams selected 74 quarterbacks in rounds 4 through 7, like we already talked about. Only 6 have started more than 11 games at quarterback. Only Tyrod Taylor, Kirk Cousins, and Dak Prescott have started more than 30. Prescott was the lone quarterback from the trio to become a full-time starter before his 4th season. And only because Dallas, which offered an ideal environment for a young quarterback with the league's best offensive line, turned to the 4th round rookie after a back injury sideline Tony Romo in 2016. Sam Howell is an extremely rare territory, like never before seen territory. This just doesn't happen. These quarterbacks drafted between rounds 4 through 7, forget even how successful they end up being. Let's talk about even them getting the opportunity to show how successful they can be. Going back to Ben Standig. 2 day 3 quarterbacks, Sam Ehlinger and Nathan Peterman, were given chances to start early in their careers for reasons other than injury, but they flopped. It didn't work out. I mean, you never know. Maybe those guys figure something out later down the line, but I highly doubt it. He goes on to say Howell made his only start in week 18 last year, completing 11 of 19 passes with 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, and an interception. That was a really bad ball though. I mean, that was like Cam Sims triple, quadruple covered. It was crazy. I don't really expect him to do that anymore. Like I said, he was really surprising against the Cowboys. Well, not really surprising, because I felt like he should have been our best quarterback between him, Taylor Heineke, and Carson Wentz last year. We should have started him sooner, but he was better than I expected at that point in that game. But still, even leaving that Cowboys game, there were a lot of things we could nitpick about. A lot of those things are gone now. But continuing, Washington routed the playoff-bound Cowboys. The only quarterback in recent memory with such a scant resume, absent of injury, was named a Week 1 starter, Trevor Siemian with the 2016 Denver Broncos. Again, this is uncharted territory for the most part. It's typically some weird situations, weird scenarios where a guy like Sam Howell, drafted when he is able to become a starter, not only just in general, but especially as soon as he did, entering his second season after only 1 start. This is not a typical thing at all. There's no blueprint for this. Shouts out to Ron Rivera and company for even believing in him enough, and even just themselves, the system that they have him in, the players that they surrounded him with, to believe that we can actually make this work, and not being typical national media members that just see 5th round pick and just automatically dismiss them. Also, again, like I shouted out in the intro of this video, shouts out to 10 Top Podcast. Make sure y'all follow them as well. They brought up a great stat that Kirk Cousins' first season as a starter was 2015, and this was his stat line: 4,166 yards, 29 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 69.8 completion percentage, 7.7 yards per attempt, 101.6 QB rating, and 26 sacks taken. And that's a lot of sacks too, I'm not gonna lie. If Sam Howell can literally give us that, or anywhere near around it, we are easily a playoff team. I don't even feel like it's up for debate. We were 8-1 last year through terrible circumstances. Scott Turner, we went from Scott Turner to Eric Bieniemy. We went from Carson Wentz to Taylor Heineke, who I felt like we were winning in spite of, not because of, to Sam Howell now. I feel like we've improved much more in the secondary. I feel like the offensive line has the potential to be better. I just feel like the team is just better overall. If we went 8-1 last year and barely missed the playoffs, I don't see why, if Sam Howell, at the very least, ignore Eric Bieniemy. Just let's forget about Eric Bieniemy. Let's forget about free agency. Let's forget about the draft. If you just start Sam Howell sooner last year, and that's not even the Sam Howell we have now, that's still raw Sam Howell last year, I truly believe we would have made the playoffs last year. Why couldn't we do it this year, especially if he gives us those stats from like Kirk Cousins' first season starting for the Redskins, like I just gave y'all. Shouts out to 10 Top Podcast again. And again, I just want to shout out Ben Standig once again, because a lot of those statistics we talked about all came from him, from his article on The Athletic. Also, man, people are starting to notice Sam Howell. You still have some people out there hating, but you even have Pete Prisco from CBS that said Sam Howell will play well, and Washington is a sleeper team in the NFC. They will be a playoff team. So when he says sleeper team, he must mean Super Bowl, because then after that he said they will be a playoff team. So they're not a sleeper playoff team, they're a sleeper Super Bowl contender, is what he's saying, and he believes in Sam Howell. This came after Ron Rivera announced that Sam Howell will be the starting quarterback, and I'm pretty sure by the time I'm done editing this video and putting it out, there's going to be even more praise from random national media members, maybe Pro Football Focus, ESPN, NFL Network. We'll see, but the Sam Howell hype train is starting to get going. I'm really excited. But his success isn't only just predicated on how good he is, how talented he is, how prepared he is. It's going to be the team around him. Again, I feel like the team around him is definitely good enough, at the very least, to make the playoffs, and if anything, maybe even good enough and talented enough and well coached enough for us to even really make some noise in the playoffs, and maybe be considered a Super Bowl contender by the end of the regular season. We'll see, though. I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but my main point that I want to get to is really the only worry I have right now is the offensive line, and even that I'm starting to become more and more optimistic as time goes by, because they had a really good day against the Ravens that day two of practice. They had a good day one of joint practices with the Ravens, but day two they had an exceptional day, like a really, really good day. They were more physical. You could argue that our offensive line beat the Ravens defensive line, and maybe that's why they went and got Jadeveon Clowney this morning. They were like, oh nah, we've been hearing all of these bad things about the Commanders O-line, and then they out here beating us up day after day in joint practice. We got to go get somebody, because maybe we just suck. Now, I think if anything, it's just the Commanders offensive line. First of all, it's not as bad as people act like, but they've also just been improving, because like I've been saying, it's not just talent when it comes to offensive line. A lot of it has to deal with chemistry and building those reps together, learning how to take on stunts and twist together. It's a whole bunch of mental stuff. It's a whole bunch of stuff that takes time, reps, patience, and things like that. So they're going to get better every day that passes. I also feel like it was a little exaggerated about how bad they performed against the Browns in that preseason game. So I just feel like this offensive line, you know, if anything, that's my main worry for this team. Really the only worry I have for this team. But at the same time, even that, it's not that big of a worry. I'm actually pretty optimistic about this offensive line. Maybe that's just me being glass half full. But if I had to say anything that could set Sam Howell back, that could prevent him from having the season I truly believe he should have and will have, it's the offensive line. But around that, you have elite receivers. I feel like this is going to be one of the best receiving groups in the NFL. I feel like it's going to be in conversations for the best receiving group in the NFL, and Sam Howell's gonna have a lot to deal with that, because we've had a lot of talent, and if anything, we've only added more. But what's been holding them back, Terry McLaurin specifically, is that he just doesn't put up great stats, and that's been way more on the quarterback, the offensive coordinator, and also the offensive line blocking for those mid quarterbacks we've had for the past few years, more than Terry McLaurin's fault. Point blank, period. And now that Sam Howell looks like he's going to be who he's going to be, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown, all of those guys should be able to put up the stats that have them in the conversation for the best receiving group in the NFL. And then don't even get me started on the offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy. I mean, you saw the adjustments he made in a preseason game. Anything burgundy and gold and adjustments just haven't been synonymous for us for a very long time. A Commanders offensive coordinator, really a coach period, making adjustments mid-game is crazy, let alone in a preseason game. Third drive, after those first two drives, the offensive line, specifically Andrew Wiley especially, was getting beat, literally looking like a turnstile out there at times. And then Eric Bieniemy decided, all right, the third drive, we're just going to adjust to that. Y'all can't block for 5 seconds. I'm only going to ask you to block for 2 or 3. We're going to get the ball out quicker from Sam Howell. We're going to ask him to roll outside of the pocket. So even if you can't block the guy in front of you, doesn't matter. Sam Howell's already over there and probably throwing a ball on the run, a perfectly accurate ball to a Cole Turner on a 4th and 3. And then, I mean, just completely changing the play calling, the scheme design, the game plan based around the fact that the offensive line didn't block as well as Eric Bieniemy had hoped. I absolutely love that. And not only that, I mean, we're more prepared, we're more physical. Our stamina is up. We're just like a way better, well-driven offense right now, man. And Eric Bieniemy, if he doesn't get all of the credit for that, he at the very least gets the majority of it. I mean, we went into that Ravens joint practice situation, and even Ravens reporters said that the Commanders looked more physical and even looked more comfortable and more prepared or more poised than the Ravens did. In Baltimore, too. Can't wait to see what we look like in this preseason game, but I feel like we haven't heard things like that before. And I know we have a new owner in Josh Harris. I know we have a new quarterback, but I feel like Eric Bieniemy gets the most credit for that. So, on top of elite receivers, on top of an elite offensive coordinator as well, I believe that Eric Bieniemy will be, and he's already showing signs of that already. On top of all of that, we're arguably going to have the best defense in football as well, especially if everybody can stay healthy. And that's a quarterback's best friend, because you're going to give him the ball back constantly, give him the ball back. And he doesn't have to worry about, oh, I made a mistake, now the game's over because my defense can't stop anything. My defense is wet toilet paper out there. Nah, our defense is going to be elite. And so Sam Howell will have less to worry about. He can play his game, because when in doubt, the defense can bail him out if they need to. The supporting cast is insane. Again, the only slight worry I have is offensive line, and I'm even a little bit more optimistic about them than the majority of Commanders fans. And then also, Sam Howell spoke on himself being named the starter. Here's a video right here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm always confident in my abilities. I'm always confident in my ability to come here and perform and do well for this football team. But I think this throughout camp, and I think every single day I've gotten better and more comfortable. I feel like I'm in a really good place right now with the offense, and I feel really good going out there every single day. I feel good about my chances as well in this.
And I love the confidence in this video too, man. He's talking about how he knows how he can perform well and how he's going to be a great quarterback for the Commanders. I love the confidence. Don't forget, he was talking trash after that Cowboys win. He said something to the extent of, we could have scored even more points on them if we really wanted to, type stuff like that. And I can't wait to compete in the NFC East and see the Cowboys twice a year again. Like, I love the confidence. He has trash talking to him. He has a certain swag to him. I really rock with Howell for that. Also, I love the fact that he said that he was more comfortable this year than last year. That's big time. And he also said that he believes in his teammates. And he just sounded like a big leader out there. He didn't sound like a guy that's only started one NFL game so far in his short NFL career. He didn't sound like that at all. I mean, he sounded like he was super grateful for the opportunity. He sounded super poised and professional. He sounded very mature. He thanked the coaches. He thanked the players. He made it more about them than himself. And even when they asked him about the O-line, he said, quote, "I was very pleased with the offensive line's performance in Baltimore," unquote. And my boy, the Podfather, shouts out to the Burgundy Zone. I'm on their podcast and their videos all of the time. Shouts out to all of them, and make sure y'all subscribe to all of them, follow all of their Twitter accounts and everything. He brought up a great point that he doesn't talk like he's trying to be accepted by the team. He's talking like this is his team. Like, he's already the captain. He's the leader. Absolutely love the confidence that he has. But more importantly, when it comes to the offensive line, like I said, he was asked about the offensive line, and if anything, he had compliments about them. And the fact that he quickly said that he needs to be better, and if anything, he blamed himself for the sack against the Browns, which again, I believe is true. I felt like, I've already talked about this in previous videos, that sack wasn't necessarily on the O-line. If he would have gotten the ball out quicker to Brian Robinson, that could have been like a 30-yard play rather than like an 8-yard sack. So that was technically his fault anyway, but the fact that he's already in that mode of being the mature face of the franchise, quarterback, leader guy that's willing to take all the blame, even if it isn't. Now, in this situation, I feel like it is, but he's already ready to take accountability for things that may or may not be his fault. I love everything I'm seeing from him, man. And also, man, I love the fact that the Commanders put really this whole 2023 season on his shoulders and challenged him, and he answered. First of all, that's just great for us because it looks like we finally have a franchise quarterback potentially. But also, man, a lot of people would have looked really stupid right now. Sam Howell looked terrible so far in the offseason. We would have had to go out there with Jacoby Brissett week 1, and we just keep talking all of this. We'll keep developing Sam Howell and see if he can start at some point mid-season type of thing. After all of the talk we had before the draft, after the draft, and stuff like that, they were talking about Sam Howell as QB1 right now and all of that. A lot of people, most notably Ron Rivera, would have looked really stupid at this point if Sam Howell hadn't progressed the way that he has already this fast and all of that, man. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Let me know how you feel about Sam Howell being our starting quarterback and all of the points I brought up. Do you agree or disagree with any of my points? All of that, man. I'm really excited about Sam Howell being our starting quarterback. Super excited. It looks like we finally have a franchise quarterback. A lot of fan bases take this for granted. I mean, most notably, the Green Bay Packers about to find out soon with Jordan Love going from Brett Favre smoothly into Aaron Rodgers. They haven't had a bad quarterback for like double-digit year, with like 30 years or something like that. So, man, they're about to find out now. A lot of these franchises have just gone from good quarterback to good quarterback, or at the very least had a great quarterback for the past few years. We've still been digging and searching, and it's such a relief to feel like we finally found that guy. And again, most importantly, like I brought up in the video, he's on a rookie contract. I'm super excited. So, man, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button. And also, man, shouts out to all of my supporters, shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors' names scrolling on the screen right now. And again, I'm doing everything I can to get to the comment section. Eventually, I'm gonna just take a long time, like maybe a few hours, to try to read and reply to every comment that I can. So make sure y'all just stay patient with me, man. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.